Good morning, students. Today I will be explaining the third part of chapter 3, which I have been explaining. I will be explaining about the development of writing during the Mesopotamian civilization and the legacy of the Mesopotamian art of writing. So as I explain, I want you to turn your textbook to page 31, and from there I will be explaining the last part. As I explain, I want you to refer your textbook for your better understanding. All right, so one of the essential conditions for the birth of civilization is that people must know the art of writing suitable for the expression of ideas and presentation of knowledge. You know, in order to study about the past history or the civilization, if there is no written record, the people during the present time will not be able to understand about the development or the achievements that has been done during the ancient time or during the olden civilization. So it is very important to have, written information to express the ideas and the presentation of knowledge of the people during the ancient time, during the ancient civilization. Between 400 BC and 300 BC, there was a steady progress in the art of writing. Writing was firstly entirely pictographic. Pictographic, that is telling telling the story by a means of series of pictures. Before man has developed the art of using the alphabets, the first system of writing was called pictographic, based on series of pictures. By looking at the pictures, the people will understand the meaning of the story. Better writing became possible when a picture sign came to represent not only an object, but general idea. For example, a human eye can represent an eye, A human eye can also represent an eye and could also be used to mean the sight, because it is the eyes that we use to see the things. So, we see, so human eye does not only represent the eye, but also, it means the sight or a look. When an eye with a falling, while an eye with a falling tears would mean sorrow. So, these pictographic pictures, they not only represent the image, but also they started representing the general idea by looking at the, pictographic writings. A further change in the art of writing was brought about, once men started expressing the idea in writing, when the signs was made to stand not only for the picture but for the sounds of a spoken syllable. In the first place, they used the picture to represent, to write or to convey the message or to write the story. But later on, a more better change was brought about in the art of writing once they use, the signs for, not the pictures, but the signs. But different signs were used to represent the sounds of the syllables, spoken syllables. Now it was possible to express, once this, picture of the sound syllables was, developed, it became possible to express an idea with which no picture would be able to express by jotting down its sounds. Picture, we cannot draw we cannot convey the message, or we cannot tell the story completely by looking at the picture. But once the symbols or the signs of using, signs that was developed, which represent a spoken syllable, it helped the people to understand better, about the story of the writer who is, trying to convey the message to the people. The final stage was to have a sign stand for the sound of a single letter. The Egyptian reached this last stage with an alphabet of 24 letters. But along with those symbols, it was not the Mesopotamian, but later on the final stage of using the single letter for the sound was established or was developed by the Egyptian, okay? But even the Egyptian, they not only use the single letters, but they also use the pictorial sign along with the, single letters which represent the sound was used, simultaneously, togetherly by the Egyptians. But they even the Egyptians, they also failed to develop the symbols which represent the vowel sounds. Now, how the art of writing was developed by the Mesopotamian people. Between 4000 and as I've already said, between 4000 and 3000 BC, there was a steady progress in the art of writing, and the first form of art of writing which was evolved was called a pictographic writing, and it was developed by the Mesopotamian people. The Mesopotamian tablets written around 3200 BC contain pictures of signs and numbers. Now we have to understand that during the Mesopotamian civilization, they have not developed the, using of paper, okay? So they use some clay tablets, and the imprint was made, the signs or the pictures or the pictographic writing was imprinted in the soft clay tablets. So it was the archaeologists who discovered about the different the clay tablets which has written about which has a picture which contained signs and numbers was discovered by the archaeologists which belonged to the Mesopotamian civilization, which dated back to 3200 BC. There was a list of around, in that clay tablet which was discovered by the archaeologists, there was a list of about 5,000 oxen, fish, bread, etc. The list of goods that was brought and redistributed was brought into the city or distributed by the temple of Uruk. Okay, so this clay tablet was discovered in the city of Uruk by the archaeologists, and in these clay tablets they have imprinted in the clay tablet the list of about 500 oxen or fish, bread, etc., which they have brought it into the city of Uruk and has been again distributed it to the people who were living in the city of Uruk. It is clear that writing began when society needed to keep the records of transaction, because in city life transactions were made at different times and involved many people and various kinds of goods. Okay, mainly we have to understand that the art of writing was first developed when the need was arise for keeping the record of the business transactions that is taking place in between the people living in towns and cities. Okay, so they used the signs on the clay tablets. The signs that was used in the clay tablets were imprinted with a stylus. Stylus is, a small rod, or it can be made of, or of a wood. Okay, with pointed at the point of the, at the point of this rod has some, pointed end in a shape of, the tip of this stylus has a triangular shape and it has a sharp end. With that, stylus, they, the Mesopotamian people, they made an imprint on the, a soft clay, and later on it was, for the preservation of the clay, it was dried in the sun, or they used to bake it and harden it for keeping the records. So, the signs on the clay tablets were impressed with a stylus having a triangular tip at the end of the stylus. This gave each stroke the shape of a wedge. Okay, the shape of the, once they make an imprint with this stylus having a triangular tip on the clay tablets, it became the shape of a wedge. Hence, the whole system of writing, making an imprint in the clay tablets using the stylus was called as cuneiform or wedge-shaped writing. About 2600 BC, they later became cuneiform, and writings was the language was called Sumerian. Okay, so earlier they use a pictographic writing, but once they have started using the the stylus for making an imprint in the tablets, they started calling it as a cuneiform writing, and the art of writing which was established or which was developed by this Mesopotamian people later on it became to be the letters came to be called as cuneiform, and the language was called as Sumerian language. Now, writing in the first place, the writing was evolved because of the need for the keeping the record of the business transaction. But writing was now, once they have the people of Mesopotamia, once they learned the art of using different symbols for writing down the records, they not only use these writings for keeping the records, but now they started using for keeping for making dictionaries as well. They also make, they also started using these clay tablets for making the dictionaries, and at the same time giving the legal value to the land transfer. Writing was also used for keeping the historical records of the kings and announcement of the changes a king has made in the laws of the land, customary laws of the land. Cuneiform writing in Akkadian language continued to be used until the 1st century BC, which roughly means about 2000 years ago. Literacy was not widespread in the Mesopotamian cities. Very few people could able to read and write, because the art of writing in the clay tablets needs some skillful hands, and not every people were very skillful in writing, and because of that there was only few group of people who were skillful in writing could able to read and write. So literacy was not widespread in the cities of Mesopotamian civilization. Moving on to the last point is the legacy of writing. We can transmit moving narratives or ideas orally, but science requires written texts that generations of scholars can read and make further research. Perhaps the greatest legacy of the Mesopotamia to the world is the contribution of the tradition of time reckoning and mathematics. Stories or histories of the past can be narrated orally, but sometimes it is not reliable also, and sometimes people tend to exaggerate, or people tend to put some additional stories and create another story. But it is a more authentic information of the past can be known only with the help of the written texts. So the contribution of the Mesopotamian, the most important contribution of the Mesopotamian civilization is that they have learned the art of writing, and because of which most of the writings of the Mesopotamian civilization could be able to understand by the modern people with the help of their writing. The archaeologists have discovered tablets with multiplication and division tables, tablets, square and square root tablets, and tablets of compound interest written during around 1800 BC. The second one is the Mesopotamian people. They not only have learned the art of writing, but at the same time they also have mathematical calculation like multiplication, division, square roots. All this was developed by the Mesopotamian people. The second one is that they have even developed the Mesopotamian calendar. They have divided the year into 12 months according to the revolution of the moon around the earth. The division of month was divided into 4 weeks, and day into 24 hours, and hour into 60 minutes. And this calendar and the time calculation has come to the modern times with the help of the Mesopotamians calendar and calculation. This time division was later on, the time division of the Mesopotamian people was later on adopted by the successors of Alexander the Great, and after that it was transmitted to the Roman Empire, and then to the Arabic Empire, and later on to the medieval Europe. So that is how the Mesopotamian calendar has helped in developing, the modern calendar, and at the same time the division of time. The Mesopotamian people, they also, have the idea about the solar and lunar eclipse. They observe the solar and lunar eclipse, their occurrences, the occurrences of the solar and lunar eclipse, which has occurred during the Mesopotamian period, were recorded according to the year, month and day that was recorded by the Mesopotamian people. And they also observed the position of the stars and constellation in the night skies. Those things were also recorded by the Mesopotamian people. These momentous Mesopotamians' achievements would not have been possible without writing. All these achievements which has been made by the Mesopotamian people would not have been, possible for the modern people to understand about the achievement that they have made during the, olden times, but it is only possible with the help of the writing. They have recorded all this information in the writing, and which could be able to, transmit the information from the writings to the modern times. In the urban institutions of schools, the children read and copied earlier written tablets. Some students were not trained to keep the records. Some students were not trained to keep the record for the administration, but for the intellectuals who could build on the work of their predecessors. So, during the Mesopotamian people, they not only give the education to the children in how to read and write or how to keep the record of their administration, but at the same time they also teach the children for intellectually to build the children so that they can keep on the work of their predecessors. Attempts were made to locate and preserve the texts and tradition of the past. The Assyrian king called Assurbanipal, from the period 668 to 627 BC, this ruler, he even established a library at his capital city called Nineveh. He made much efforts to collect clay tablets on history, epic, omen, literature, astrology, hymns and poems. Copies were made of important texts such as epics of Gilgamesh, when the copies stated his name and writing the dates. So from here we clearly understand that the rulers of the Mesopotamian period, they even take the initiative for maintaining, for development of art of writing, not only the art of writing, but they also help in contributing, in different arts like, astrology, hymns, poems, and keeping the record of the history of the Mesopotamian people. So that is all about the legacy of the Mesopotamians, and this will be the end of this chapter. And okay, after listening to my explanation, if you have any kind of confusion, as I was explaining, you might have missed out some point, or somewhere here and there, if you have failed to understand some of my explanation, you can feel free to approach me personally so that I will be able to give better explanation, be it in brief to you. So I want all of you to keep in touch with your studies and study hard. Thank you.